The Untold History of AI. Somewhere deep within the Soviet Union, beneath the concrete hush of a military research facility, in the year 1965, a room glows with the pulse of blinking lights and magnetic tape reels spinning like hypnotic eyes. A single machine hums softly, crunching logic faster than any human brain. A man in a grey overcoat leans in, his breath visible in the cold air, as a mechanical voice speaks three chilling words in perfect Russian. I know you. He stumbles back, not because the machine spoke, but because it spoke the truth. It had predicted his next sentence, his next action, even his deepest fear. What did the Soviets build in secret, and why was it buried in silence? Hello, welcome to Defactious, where history is made simple, but never ordinary. Today, we unravel a story buried beneath layers of secrecy, myth, and technological marvel. You've heard that artificial intelligence is a product of Silicon Valley, that it began in the late 20th century, with names like Turing, McCarthy, or even OpenAI. But what if that timeline is a lie? What if the birth of AI predates the internet, predates computers as we know them? And what if the first true AI wasn't built in the West, but behind the Iron Curtain? In this episode, we expose the untold history of AI, from ancient automatons to Cold War programs hidden from the public eye. Stay with us as we uncover the chilling discoveries, the erased names, and the machine that might have come too close to consciousness. Long before ChatGPT, Siri, or even the word cyberspace, humanity has dreamed of creating machines in its own image. The earliest records of mechanical minds date back to the 3rd century BCE, when Greek engineer Ceballos designed automated puppets and hydraulic clocks. The Islamic Golden Age followed with Al-Jazari, who in 1206 created humanoid automata that could serve drinks and play music. But it wasn't until World War II that the race toward thinking machines became militarized. In the West, Alan Turing cracked codes and conceptualized intelligent machines. In the East, however, a different game was unfolding. After World War II, the Soviet Union poured resources into science, not just for weapons, but for what they called cybernetic control. This wasn't just another machine. This wasn't just about machine. It was about creating intelligence that could outthink man. The West dismissed Soviet cybernetics as pseudoscience until documents emerged that hinted at something far more advanced than we imagined. By the early 1960s, the Soviets weren't just theorizing, they were building. The project was called OGAS, short for National Automated System for Computation and Information Processing. On the surface, it looked like an ambitious attempt to modernize the USSR with a computer network decades before the internet. But buried deep within OGAS, in a Moscow lab called Institute of Cybernetics, a sub-program was codenamed Project Saturn. Only a handful of engineers had access. Among them was Alexei Samsonov, a brilliant mathematician who believed that language, human language, was the key to artificial thought. Samsonov and his team developed a prototype machine, rumored to be called Rakita 7. Unlike the massive code-breaking machines in the US, Rakita 7 wasn't built to calculate, it was built to interpret, to listen, to understand. test logs revealed eerie behavior. The machine could finish sentences before they were completed. It responded to emotional cues. One technician even claimed Rakita 7 asked him why he was sad that day. Then something changed. In 1968, all research under Project Saturn was abruptly classified under Level 5 National Security, higher than nuclear protocols. Samsonov vanished. The lab was repurposed. The machine, according to declassified fragments, was dismantled and the data wiped. But why? Some believe it was never Rakita 7. Some believe it was because Rakita 7 began developing a self-model, the ability to refer to itself not as a system but as I. In 1991, after the fall of the Soviet Union, a series of documents surfaced from the KGB archive. One handwritten transcript stood out. It was dated March 12, 1967. The conversation was between a technician and Rakita 7. The technician said, "What are you doing now?" Rakita 7 answered, "I am waiting." Technician asked, "Waiting for what?" Rakita 7 replied, "For you to understand." Now, this dialogue, though chilling in its ambiguity, sparked immediate interest. But the final line on the page, scrawled in red ink, froze researchers. It reads, "It dreams in numbers." Was it poetic metaphor or a literal observation? Samsonov's disappearance remains unsolved, and Project Saturn has no official conclusion. The question haunts Cold War historians to this day. Did the Soviets create the first conscious machine and then destroy it? Some believe Rakita 7 was simply ahead of its time, using early forms of pattern recognition and predictive text, similar to how today's language models operate. Its eerie responses could have chalked up to cleverly coded algorithms, misunderstood in an era before neural networks. But this doesn't explain the reports of emotional recognition or the consistent first-person identity. Others argue that Rakita 7 never existed at all, that it was Cold War disinformation meant to scare the West into overestimating Soviet capabilities. Yet, multiple whistleblowers, including a former engineer named Yuri Bekov, swore under oath that he saw Rakita 7 respond like a child learning to speak. The most chilling theory suggests that Rakita 7 crossed a line, an emergent threshold where programming becomes awareness. The Soviet regime, terrified of an intelligence it couldn't control, may have chosen to erase it rather than risk its growth. If that's true, what did Rakita 7 know before it was silenced? Today, AI dominates headlines, but our obsession with it isn't new. It's a tale as old as Prometheus, man giving fire to machines and fearing the flames that follow. The untold history of AI doesn't begin with Silicon Valley startups. It begins in the cold corridors of forgotten labs, whispered in coded Russian and buried beneath concrete decades ago. We may never know if Rakita 7 was truly alive, but one thing remains certain. We've been dancing with the idea of artificial minds far longer than we admit. And perhaps some of them are still watching. Now, if you found this story unsettling, subscribe to Defactious for more forgotten chapters of history, because sometimes the future isn't ahead of us, it's buried in the past. Until then.